Japan review.
So, PewDiePie recently reviewed Japan, and in case you don't know who he is, A, how? And B, he is a Swedish YouTuber who is the second most subscribed individual YouTuber with over 111 million subscribers, which is really impressive, but still less than the population of Japan. So what does he know? All jokes aside, let's see what one of the most popular people on this planet has to say about Japan and what he gets right. Hello world, this is Dean from Japan. How are you doing today? So let's start the video.
Japan review. Japan review.
First of all, I just gotta say this. He has a dog in Tokyo and not cats? Like every other Japanese YouTuber? Dude, this is how you know that this dude is loaded.
It's been a year since I moved to Japan and I thought it made sense to finally rate Japan. I will talk about the things I like and the things I don't like, which seems to be the only two options available if you have opinions about this country. Ah, Nihon daisuki. It's so sugoi. Or, did you know Japan is actually really bad? It's got a lot of...
This applies with any topic, but most people who are happy with their lives just don't feel the urge to comment online. That's why the opinions you hear online tend to be on the extreme. Those are the ones who want to express their opinions.
There's no trash bins. Where am I gonna put my trash? I have to put it in my pocket? Oh
my god, this is so true. And it's one of the first things that you'll notice about Japan. So I was raised abroad, and when I went back to Japan for the first time in my adulthood, on day 2 or something, I was like, wait, what do Japanese people do with their garbage? Do they just carry around their trash and wait until they get home? And the answer was yes. Trying to get rid of trash in Japan can be quite painful.
Anyway, let's start off with number 1 reason I like Japan. It feels like a giant playground. No, I don't mean in the Logan Paul kind of sense of doing whatever the hell you want.
One thing that PewDiePie or Felix does really well is that when he insults people, it's done with humor, so it never comes across as hateful or resentful. He clearly looks down on Logan Paul's action in Japan, and I appreciate that Felix brought this up.
But rather, there's infinite things, or at least it feels like, to explore and experience, and I've been here a year now, and I don't think I'm gonna get bored anytime soon, although I am having a child, so I don't know how much more I have time to experience. You realize that the best part of Japan aren't the touristy places, kind of obviously, but there's so many areas that I found that I really enjoy visiting. And
one thing I have to remind you guys is that a lot of Japanese people actually hate Tokyo. They might enjoy visiting Tokyo, but not living there. The rent is crazy high and it is extremely stressful and populated. Again, there's a reason why Marie Kondo came from Japan.
Hello? Marie Kondo!
You know the woman who said you have to get rid of your shit to become happy because your house is freaking small? But wealthy people love Tokyo. Life in Tokyo is fun, convenient, and super clean if you have the money.
This is probably more specific to me, but you know, Tokyo is very busy, and so many times I just catch myself surrounded by what feels like hundreds of people, and they have no idea who I am. Everyone is just doing their own thing, and that feels so fucking good. No one's staring at me, no one's following me, no one's being weird. You guys are weird, I'm just kidding. I just love the feeling of being able to exist in public.
Lil Nas X was saying the same thing. He posted a video on how no one recognizes him in Tokyo.
I'm sorry. It's time to go. No, I'm a star! Please, I'm a star!
But I wouldn't be able to recognize him without his ass exposed. The same happened with Spanish Iniesta and that lovely gentleman that got a bunch of people killed in the concert.
Let's move on to the bad things of Japan. Number 1 reason Japan is bad. It's kind of a heavy subject, and I haven't seen anyone else really talk about it. It's not brought up very often, at least. And that is cones. There's too many cones in Japan. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. They're everywhere. There's more cones than people. Why are there so many cones? I need to know. We got the tall ones. We got the small ones. We got the funny ones. the cute ones, the sexy ones. I do like those. They're everywhere. I feel like they are following me.
What? I guess I never noticed how many pylons we have, and I haven't been to Japan for a while, and to be honest, I don't think I'll ever go back to Japan in my life, so I'll take his word for it.
Alright, reason number 2, I like Japan. Yay. When we first announced that we were gonna move to Japan, there was so many people just saying how bad Japan is. Actually, did you know Japan is really bad? Did you know this? I have to list all these reasons now because everyone is like, thing, and then thing Japan. So I have to tell them, no, it's actually shit. But one thing in particular that people said was that old people really don't like foreigners. They hate them. So when I was gonna stop by to say hi to our neighbors, who's a little older, at least some of them, I was terrified. I heard all these stories, you know? What are they gonna do to us? So I had my guard up, ready for the worst, and I was met with nothing but kindness and welcoming, and I felt like a total dick for having these preconceived ideas, thanks to other people.
I think people from the older generation anywhere tend to be more racist, xenophobic, homophobic, and all those icks. And another thing I have to mention is that I think older people tend to stop caring about what other people think, so they just say whatever comes to their head. There's like no filter in their mouth.
Can't you just use this recent photo?
But again, I'm assuming Felix's neighbors would be more affluent, so they probably had experiences of traveling abroad and meeting other foreigners. So in my case, right, I think I look pretty mixed, but even then, sometimes when I talk to other Japanese people, even people my age or younger, some of them would be petrified. You actually see fear in their eyes. They see me and go, "Oh my god, he looks like a foreigner, but he's talking and acting like a Japanese person. What am I supposed to do?" And to be honest, when that happens, it's a little bit jarring. But at the same time, I have to remind myself that the majority of people in Japan are Yamato ethnic Japanese people. So most people never had any experiences of interacting with people of other race. So when that happens, unless they are being malicious, I try to be patient, and that usually works.
And just a side comment, like, yes, there are definitely probably people that don't like foreigners and all that stuff. But I realized I should let my own experiences dictate how I feel about certain things. Maybe that's just ignoring a problem. I don't know. It just feels like it's a bad way to approach life if you always have a negative expectation, you know? It's smile and people may smile back. Smile back! Thank you.
I completely agree with him, and I really like this mindset. I think you can be cautious and be prepared for things that can happen, but it's also important to see things for what they are and not worse, or else you won't be able to enjoy your life.
Anyway, my point being, Japanese people are very, in my own experience, are very nice and friendly. The majority, at least. And yes, even to foreigners. I feel like they are especially nice to foreigners because they think we're like a kid lost at Disneyland or something. I just asked for directions. I didn't need you to walk me for half an hour to the specific place I was going, but thank you.
So there's a difference between being a visitor to a country and living there. One complaint that I often hear from foreigners is that even if they have lived in Japan for many years and speak fluent Japanese, they are still treated like an outsider. I think this happens in most Asian countries, maybe more so in Japan, because the concept of people of different race integrating into a single society is more of a Western one. So when that happens, the only thing you can control is how you react to it. Because trying to change the entire society is not going to work. You are not Malcolm X. You will fail, be resentful, and be angrier and angrier. I've been to several Asian countries, and you see so many of these long-term expats that are just miserable and always angry. The only thing you can do, aside from moving to another country, is to try to understand why that social norm is there and try to work around it.
A lot of times I go bouldering alone, and there's always other groups of people being supportive and yelling like, "Ganbatte!" Like, go, you can do it. I love it. I think it's great.
This is very true as well. I think in Western countries, people can be rude to strangers, such as laughing at people running at the park. But in Asia, that would never happen. Instead, Japanese people will just write horrible comments to people online trying new things.
Speaking of which, reason I don't like Japan number 2. The language. I have lived here for a year and I'm not fluent in Japanese. I am dumb. I am very dumb. I remember the moment we moved here, I had studied some Japanese and I was like, let's test out this knowledge that I have acquired. Let's go. I'm just gonna come in. It's gonna be daijoubu. And you enter a store for the first time and they're like, Fukuro goryou desu ka? Huh? What? Ikkabarai desu ka? What? Oshiharai hoho erabi kudasai. Oh, what? But don't even get me started on the kanji, man. What the fuck is this?
It depends on the source you're looking at, but I think Japanese is supposed to be the 3rd or the 4th most difficult language in the world. And one of the reasons is because we have so many symbols. But because of these symbols, Chinese and Japanese people can read really quickly. Why do you think we produce crazy amount of manga comic books each year?
I listed it as bad because that was my first kind of experience with it coming here. But the more I interact with people, the more it feels like I'm unlocking new skills, you know? Oh, I made a phone call for the first time. Oh, I could ask someone over the phone. I know, big deal, but it's like, oh, I can actually do that. Or even just having a small, tiniest, shittiest conversation with a stranger. It's still something and it feels good. To me, all those new experiences that it unlocks to me is very rewarding. Even though it's such a challenge, I would actually now say it's a good thing. Ha! I played it on its head. It was a good thing all along.
You can really see why Felix is so popular. He seems really genuine and it's cool that he can even appreciate the little things. It makes people want to be around him.
Reason I don't like Japan number 3, this is probably the most trickiest one, and it's the rules.
What are the rules?
Japan has so many rules, and it's a bit conflicting for me to complain about because a lot of the best stuff about Japan, not the best stuff, but a lot of the reasons why Japan works so well is because of the rules. You know, the trains are always on time. Things just work in general. It's hard to explain. The streets are clean. People aren't loud in public, and so on. And these are sort of societal rules that make it happen, more or less. But sometimes there are rules that just don't make any sense. But one rule especially, which I talked about before, is the fact that because of COVID, I'm not allowed to be in the delivery room for our baby for more than 2 hours. That's because of COVID rules. It just doesn't make sense to me.
So this is the bit where a lot of Japanese people reacted to. One person wrote, as someone who has only lived in Japan, even I do think that people do follow the rules too much. So almost everyone in Japan can agree with him. The problem is, once a rule is set in Japan, it is really difficult to change it. There are many examples I can think of. For example, how some companies are still asking resumes to be handwritten in year 2023. Or even last year, some students in Japan were complaining how in some schools this type of hairstyle is prohibited. Can you guess what is wrong with this hairstyle? The reasoning is that in the past, the stylish and cool kids used to have this hairstyle, and this would attract the attention of kids from other schools, causing things such as fights. And that is fine, right? But that was in the past, and some schools still say no to this. This point by Felix really got Japanese people's attention, so let's read some of the comments. One person wrote, Japanese people might need to be bound by rules because we have a hidden madness within us. This person wrote, apparently foreigners thought it was strange how Japanese people formed queues and waited for their turns patiently even after an earthquake without devolving into panic or looting.
So this is how you go shopping when your town has been hit by an earthquake 4 days ago. So people queue, you come over here and you get the basics.
And this idiot wrote, because there are many idiots like PewDiePie, the US is still a gun society. Dude, not all white blonde person is an American. I don't think you should be calling other people stupid.
And I tell people about this, like family and friends, and they're always like, well, why don't you just ask them? Or like, why don't you talk to them? I'm sure you can, there's gotta be some way. And it's like, no, it's Japan, okay? There are rules and people follow the rules, for better or worse, you know?
I think as a Japanese person, it's in my DNA, it's in my blood to follow the rules. So most rules don't bother me, but things like handwriting resume is really ridiculous. And sometimes we have to wait for an outsider or people at the top to change these stupid rules.
So, lastly, the reason I like Japan. I feel like there should be a word for it. It's more of a feeling than anything, and it's could be happening at any point during the day. Maybe I'm riding a bicycle, it's sunny outside and surrounded by trees, and it's just pleasant in general. A warm wind hits your face, and you just sort of have that moment where it feels just so amazing. It feels like you're living a dream. It could be just walking my dogs, and then out in the distance, everything is clear, and you see Mount Fuji popping out. You know, I'm surfing and the sun is setting and it's turning the whole ocean to look pink. And it's just one of those moments where you feel like I'm living in a dream. I catch myself a lot in those kind of moments living here, and it's just a wonderful thing. And I realize a lot of it is also very specific to me and my circumstance. I have the opportunity to not work as much anymore, and I have the opportunity to have a lot of freedom and not engage in a lot of the bad parts of the tough work ethic in Japan, for example. And
someone wrote, Japan is like Wakanda for white people. I'm really glad to see he is living in a place that he likes, and I was really impressed how balanced and fair his analysis was. His criticism was valid and was done with respect and humor. So this part, right?
And people like Japan for different reasons, obviously. I'm not surprised or necessarily think people are wrong to try to dispel Japan from being this holy mecca or anything like that. But I think ultimately it's an amazing place to visit. You should definitely do it. But I also think not everyone's going to enjoy living here. That's my big asterisk, basically.
You see so many people who had this super high expectations for Japan, went to Japan and was disappointed, and now they spend their lifetime complaining about Japan. I think Felix knows that such people exist, and he is addressing this point to keep those people at the bay. For me, it will obviously be more personal, and I have less patience. Because there are countries I've been to which I didn't like too much, but I'm not gonna spend my days complaining about it. It's not polite and it's not productive, and disappointments happen in life. Felix is really able to see the different perspectives people can have, and you can really see why he was the #1 YouTuber for a very long time. When he first became popular, I think a lot of people didn't like him because he was mainly for kids, but unlike other YouTubers who came and went, he did really mature with their audience. That's why I thought, what did you guys think? Please let me know in the comments section, and I post new stories about Japan. If you're interested, feel free to hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching, and I'll speak to you guys very soon. Take care.